The world is watching Geneva. In this historic city, where so many pivotal moments in international diplomacy have unfolded, the eyes of the globe are once again fixed on a high-stakes negotiation that could alter the course of history. At the center of this diplomatic drama is Steve Witkoff, a real estate magnate turned special envoy tasked by President Trump with a monumental challenge: nuclear negotiations with Iran. Witkoff, known for his sharp business instincts, now finds himself navigating the complex world of international politics, where the stakes are far higher than any real estate deal. These talks are about preventing a potential war in the Middle East, a conflict with global consequences. The region is already a powder keg, and any misstep here could ignite a crisis that would ripple far beyond its borders, affecting millions of lives. Witkoff, alongside Jared Kushner, carries the weight of this responsibility. Together, they represent a new breed of American negotiators, outsiders to traditional diplomacy, but insiders to the art of the deal. For years, the world has worried about Iran's nuclear ambitions. The question of whether Iran seeks peaceful energy or covert weapons capability has haunted policymakers and fueled international tension. Is their program peaceful, or a cover for weapons? Inspectors and intelligence agencies have searched for answers, but uncertainty remains, and suspicion lingers on both sides. The previous nuclear deal, abandoned by the Trump administration, tried to answer that question. Its collapse left a vacuum, raising fears and hardening positions on all sides. Now, with tensions spiraling, these Geneva talks are a last hope for peace. The atmosphere is tense, the stakes immense, and the world's patience is wearing thin. Witkoff's journey from New York boardrooms to international diplomacy is remarkable. He's traded skyscrapers for conference halls and business deals for delicate negotiations that could determine the fate of nations. Known for his tough, direct style, he's seen as a deal-maker, not a traditional diplomat. His reputation for closing deals precedes him, but the world of diplomacy is a different arena, one where words can be as powerful as actions. His presence signals a new American approach: personal relationships and direct negotiation over protocol. Witkoff's strategy is to cut through bureaucracy, relying on trust and candor to break deadlocks that have stymied diplomats for decades. As Witkoff and his team face their Iranian counterparts, the world holds its breath. Every move is scrutinized, every word analyzed, as journalists and analysts try to read the signals from behind closed doors. A failure here could trigger military conflict. The threat of escalation looms large, with military forces on alert and world leaders bracing for the worst. The US insists Iran must never obtain a nuclear weapon. This is a red line for Washington, and one that shapes every aspect of the negotiation. Iran, feeling cornered, insists on its right to a peaceful nuclear program. For Tehran, national pride and sovereignty are at stake, and any compromise is fraught with risk. This is the tightrope Witkoff must walk. One misstep could send the entire process tumbling, with consequences that would be felt for generations. Every word, gesture, and decision could mean the difference between peace and war. The pressure is relentless and the margin for error is razor thin. The stakes could not be higher. The outcome here will reverberate through capitals and conflict zones, shaping alliances and enmities for years to come. The outcome of these talks will shape the future of the Middle East and the world. From the streets of Tehran to the corridors of power in Washington, the decisions made in Geneva will echo across continents. Geneva is now the stage for a crisis with global consequences. As the world waits, the fate of peace hangs in the balance, and history is being written in real time. During the high-stakes negotiations, Iran made a move that sent shockwaves through the diplomatic community. They boldly declared control over 460 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity. This announcement was not just a technical detail, it was a calculated signal to the world that Iran had crossed a significant threshold in nuclear capability. At 60% purity, uranium is alarmingly close to weapons-grade material, which typically requires enrichment to around 90%. The difference may seem small, but in nuclear terms, it's a leap that brings the possibility of weaponization within reach. Nuclear expert Steve Witkoff assessed that this stockpile could, in theory, be converted into enough fissile material for up to 11 nuclear bombs. A chilling prospect that raised the stakes for everyone at the table. Iran's message was unmistakable. They possessed the technical know-how and the resources, and they were prepared to use this newfound power as leverage in the negotiations. This was a textbook example of coercive diplomacy. By showcasing their uranium stockpile, Iran was effectively putting their cards on the table, daring the world to respond. The American negotiating team now faced a stark dilemma. Should they call Iran's bluff and risk a dangerous escalation, offer concessions to de-escalate the situation, or stand their ground and hope Iran would back down? The tension in the room was palpable, with every word and gesture carrying enormous weight. Iran's strategy was clear: to create a sense of urgency and fear, hoping that the United States would feel pressured to soften its stance and make concessions. But Witkoff, seasoned in the art of negotiation, recognized this as a hardball tactic. He saw it not as a sign of compromise, but as a calculated move to shift the balance of power at the table. The United States quickly realized that Iran was now negotiating from a position of newfound strength, emboldened by their advanced nuclear progress. The atmosphere in the negotiation room was electric, charged with the knowledge that a single miscalculation could alter the course of history and potentially ignite a new crisis in the region. Both sides understood the gravity of the moment. Every decision, every pause, every glance across the table carried immense consequences. Iran's Uranium Gambit set a dramatic tone for the rest of the talks, ensuring that every subsequent move would be watched with heightened scrutiny and anticipation. The US arrived in Geneva with sweeping demands. At the top, the complete, verifiable elimination of Iran's nuclear weapons potential, non-negotiable. The US also demanded Iran dismantle its ballistic missile program, seen as a direct threat by Washington and its allies. Another demand to end support for proxy groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, which the US views as destabilizing the region. The US insisted Iran stop harassing shipping in the Persian Gulf. In essence, America wanted a total transformation of Iran's behavior, far beyond just a nuclear deal. These demands set a very high bar for any agreement. For Iran, they represented a fundamental challenge to sovereignty. The stage was set for a clash of visions. Iran's response was unequivocal and resolute. They insisted on their inalienable right to pursue a peaceful nuclear program, a right they believe is protected under international law and essential to their national sovereignty. As a sovereign nation and a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, Iran argued it was fully entitled to enrich uranium for civilian energy and medical purposes. Iranian leaders repeatedly emphasized that their nuclear ambitions were not only legal, but also necessary for the country's development and independence. For many Iranians, giving up this right would not just be a political setback, it would be a deep national humiliation, undermining their dignity and sense of self-determination. Politically, it was seen as an impossible concession. The nuclear program has become a powerful symbol of national pride and technological progress, as well as a rallying point for resistance against foreign pressure and perceived injustice. Iranian negotiators made it clear in every round of talks that they would not accept any agreement that denied their right to enrich uranium on Iranian soil. For them, this was a non-negotiable red line. Meanwhile, the United States and its allies remained deeply suspicious, fearing that even limited enrichment could provide Iran with the capability to develop nuclear weapons in the future, despite Iran's assurances. Iran, in turn, pointed to religious edicts issued by its highest authorities that explicitly forbid the development or use of nuclear weapons, insisting that their intentions were strictly peaceful and aligned with their faith. For Iran, surrendering enrichment rights is not seen as a reasonable compromise. It is viewed as outright capitulation to foreign demands, something the nation cannot accept. This fundamental disagreement over enrichment remains the central stumbling block in negotiations, preventing any lasting resolution. Both sides approach the issue from fundamentally different worldviews, each shaped by history, ideology, and security concerns. This deep mistrust continues to fuel the impasse, making the gap between them seem almost unbridgeable. The first major session in Geneva was a grueling 6-hour confrontation. Witkoff and Kushner faced determined Iranian envoys. The talks ended with no breakthrough. Core disagreements over enrichment, missiles, and proxies remained. The meeting clarified just how far apart the sides were, yet the talks didn't collapse. Both sides agreed to continue negotiations the following week, a crucial sign that diplomacy wasn't dead. Technical teams would meet in Vienna to hash out details. While political hurdles remained, the process moved forward. The Geneva Standoff ended in a draw, but the match was not over. The world watched, hoping for progress. The next round was already being planned. The diplomatic process was alive, if only barely. The stakes remained as high as ever. As diplomats talked in Geneva, military tensions soared in the Middle East. The US amassed its largest air power in the region since 2003, a deliberate show of force. The USS Gerald R. Ford and its strike group arrived, signaling credible military options. President Trump weighed diplomatic updates from Witkoff and Kushner against Pentagon plans for possible strikes. Options ranged from limited airstrikes to a broader campaign. Iran responded with defiant warnings, vowing swift retaliation if attacked. Both sides issued threats, creating a volatile cycle. The shadow of war loomed over the talks. The risk of miscalculation was real. Diplomacy and military planning ran in parallel. The world braced for what might come next. The American team, Kushner and Witkoff, represented a break from tradition. Neither was a career diplomat. Both came from high-stakes real estate. Their appointments signaled Trump's preference for loyalty and deal-making over protocol. With direct access to the president, they had immense power at the table. Their business background shaped a pragmatic, bottom-line approach. Critics warned this style risked dangerous miscalculations in a complex region. Supporters argued it could force a breakthrough. The unconventional team was being tested in real time. The peace and security of a region hung in the balance. For Iran, the talks were about survival, dignity, and resistance. The nuclear program is a symbol of self-reliance, achieved despite sanctions. Dismantling it would be seen as surrender. Iran views US demands as attempts to strip its defenses and regional influence. Ballistic missiles and proxy groups are seen as vital deterrents. The US demands felt like a call for unconditional surrender. Decades of mistrust made compromise nearly impossible. Pride and defiance were not tactics, they were national convictions. The Geneva Standoff has brought the world to a critical juncture. The outcome will shape global security and the future of nuclear non-proliferation. The US faces a test of its maximum pressure campaign. Iran sees an existential struggle for sovereignty. Both sides walk a tightrope. One misstep could mean war. Talks continue, offering a glimmer of hope. But with military forces on alert and hardline positions entrenched, the window for peace is narrow. The world waits, knowing the next move could change history.